YouTube. We have a box. We're gonna open it right now. Look at this thing. Seems familiar. What is that? It's a P-51 V2 Racing 1100 millimeters and one of these wonderful color liveries. Yes. Yes, which one is it? I don't know.
It's a surprise.
I think I could use process of elimination. So let's see which one we've got here. It's gonna be a surprise. All right, so there's Dago Red Voodoo. We've done that one. Blue Thunder 2 and Miss America. We've done that one. So it's probably one of these two.
50-50 shot.
Let's open it up and find out. We're gonna stop the suspense because it's killing me. What the heck is going on here? Oh, it's right there. Wonderful. The camera crew built it. Yes! So the reason for that in the obnoxious unboxing was because we have already built the Voodoo, which we did a long time ago, like many moons ago.
Years ago.
And then we did Miss America, which is also sitting on the table.
Yeah.
Now the reason for this unbox build radio setup being short is because, yeah, we've already built it a few times. And so just to be clear, this one is ready for radio setup. Radio setup is gonna be slightly different, and that's part of the reason why we are gonna show you this right now. If you guys wanna see the unbox build radio setup on Miss America, you can see it set up with an AR 8360T, which is a quite a bit more involved process, okay? So I just wanna tell you that, and that's also a pretty expensive receiver, okay? So you may not wanna spend 130 bucks or whatever they're going for now when you're watching this video, but if you want thrust reverse, you're gonna have to have all those channels, because think about it, guys. If you need thrust reverse to slow this thing down, it lands at 1.5 million miles an hour. Like it's Mach 3 flying and then Mach 2 landing. It does have inboard flaps, they are effective, but for whatever reason, every time I land this, it wants to go like 4 trillion miles an hour on landing, okay? So we said our Voodoo has the reflex, which would have only called for the 8020T, which is considerably cheaper because you still have telemetry, but you lose the AS3X and safe. Well, we wanted AS3X and safe to see how it did. Performed very nicely. If you guys wanna see the unbox build radio setup with that receiver setup, just watch this plane. They go together exactly the same. They are the exact same plane. Just to be totally clear, the only difference is the livery, okay? But we do wanna see the differences in looks. We wanna see the difference in visibility, which is important, especially to me since they lasered my balls. Well, one of the balls with PRK.
Just the left one.
Just the left one.
And I think on our Voodoo, we actually set ours up with a 620.
We did a 620 with the reflex because
there was no thrust reverse then, a couple years ago.
That might be true, but now, that's right, you might be right. We might have done a 620. So a 620 would be the most economical solution if it comes with the reflex. Now, right now, if you order this, it's gonna be without a reflex, which is the way our Dago Red came, okay? So beautiful, wow, amazing, so gorgeous. So I'm a little bit weirded out by the transition on the colors here, but whatever. Also, I feel like the finish on this is way more cartoony than it is on the Voodoo or Miss America, Miss America. And when I saw it, I came in and I was like, oh my goodness, like the number and everything. But this is really the way it looked or looks, okay? I do not watch pylon racing, full disclosure, so I don't know anything about it, okay? They don't have pylon racing around where we live in the Midwest that I know of, okay? So canopy off, we're gonna get straight into radio setup right now. As you can see, this still comes with the obnoxious EC5 connector, which does make it a little challenging. This does come equipped with thrust reverse, okay? So obviously, if we're gonna use a 6-channel receiver and if we don't have a reflex, then that means we're gonna have to choose between an AR-630 or an AR-631? Because here's the truth, guys. Listen. $15 is a rounding error when you start spending this kind of money on a plane. So just get the 8360T. If you're going to go to the AR-637, I'm not even going to show that as an option here, because for 15 bucks extra, you get thrust reverse.
Right.
Now, that being said, and this is a big but, I was trying to think of how to say that funny. This is a big but. If you use a 631 or a 630, you can still swap out the gigantic ESC for an Avian ESC. Remember, we're gonna be flying ours on 6S because we've already proven it flies on 4S. And even though it's insane on 4S, 6S is even more insane. And so we're gonna use 4S, 1300 from one of the helicopters. Fully maxed 1300, that's a 40C. So, you know, we used another competitive brand and they turned out to screw us. So we stopped using their stuff.
Yeah.
And I also darn near destroyed their packs on the Voodoo.
But we didn't.
It went like this, it goes.
It was like a round battery, it was fun.
Yeah, so anyway, so we're not gonna talk about them anymore. They're dead to us. But fully max, evidently, they're one of the best Chinese batteries we've ever had. And we've never had a problem with them.
No, we haven't actually.
Actually, they're fine. It came in a ready to fly. It came with this helicopter, this one.
Oh, yes.
This F280, which is a Yuzheng. So we had no issues with those. And so we just wanted to point that out. It's not really a big deal, just is what it is. Now, we'll link to something that's gonna be accessible to you, okay? All right, so the question becomes, do we go 630, do we go 631? The reason we go through this elaborate explanation of our receiver choice is because we know that a lot of times it comes down to dollars and cents and features and how to weigh that. So as you guys get into these plug and fly planes, you know, you want good advice. You can make good decisions on your own. I mean, obviously I don't know what your money situation is. You might have so much money, it doesn't matter. You might also be broke and you're just like trying to get this by the wife so she doesn't catch you. And that's fine. Whatever the situation is, we want to give you good advice, okay? My suggestion would be, this is going fast and it's going a long ways away and a long ways back and a long ways away. And so I would lean toward the antenna. Keep in mind the difference in price between these two. I mean, at least as it stands today. Again, we don't do a lot of price talk on this channel. It's $5, no hala. So for that reason, I really like the end pin on the 630, but it's not gonna really matter. We know the battery has to be crammed way inside of here,
Yep.
okay? So we're gonna go 631.
Okay.
Why 631? For all of those reasons and more. Because I want AS3X and safe, it's superior slightly to the Reflex. I'm not saying the Reflex doesn't do its job. The Reflex helps hold down the cost if you're not into a Spectrum transmitter, because keeping in mind, if you guys have some off-brand transmitter like OpenTX or whatever, and you don't want to be into the DSMX platform, or if you want to do FR Sky or something like that, you can do it a lot cheaper, okay? Now, I'm not saying that I recommend that, because I don't, to be clear. We have used some OpenTX stuff. I just don't recommend it. Why? Because there's a lot more help from guys like me that do this. And I like it. That doesn't mean it's the only choice, and I'm not like in some denial world here. The NX10 has been great. It's also quite expensive compared to some of the other competitive offerings. So be it. So let's say that's 200 bucks more than a competitive offering that probably has more features. Well, guess what? Some of the features I want are here and some of the features aren't there. Or if they are, I don't know how to use them. For that reason, I'm sticking with this. And by the way, I have that equipment. Yeah. I just don't use it.
You can only know so many systems.
That's right. I don't want to waste that much manpower, brain power, relearning between planes. Now, I know that's going to hurt some of your feelings, but it is the stark reality of what we face. This is why you build planes yourself. Did you glue this on?
Yes.
It's not straight. You realize that has to be straight.
It was straight.
Guys, when you're gluing these fences on, they have to actually be straight. That is an aerodynamic thing that has to be right.
But it's got those pins in it. Let's look at this one.
Would you look at that?
Yeah.
Look at that. Is it square?
It is square.
Okay. So if you put these in wrong, here's how you fix it. Okay? This is how you fix it. Where's the pins?
You're gonna break it. There's 3.
Okay? This is China glue at its best. Okay? This is how you fix it. You pull it off. China, you gotta get it lined up, China. Okay? See this? Not straight. Attention to detail is something that I suffer from.
This one's better.
So now we're gonna get the FMS China glue. Guys, wing fences matter. Wing fences matter. They do matter. They have to be straight. If they're not straight, your plane is not gonna fly straight. It's gonna be like,
Yes.
and then,
I was just trying to.
no. Has to be right. If you can't handle the wing fence, you gotta hire somebody like me to put it together. All right, so China glue is amazing from FMS. If you're buying an FMS product, I highly recommend you use some China glue. China glue is amazing. Okay, you could use CA. So the problem with that is it is challenging to get this wing fence in straight because now I've got these holes. Show them the holes.
Right.
Okay? So do you want to know how I'm going to fix the whole issue?
No.
Yes, you do.
Do I want to know? No. Do I know how?
I have to expand the hole. Okay? And you're like, but that's how it holds in. Not anymore. Now it's going to be holding in by the glue that's here. Okay? Do you understand why it's important to get this right the first time? And guys, if you're building and you're new to building, my wife is surprisingly good at this stuff. Usually, this is one of the first times I've noticed an issue big enough to actually try to fix. And I'm being picky about it because this plane is incredibly fast. I mean, it's like over 100 miles an hour, balls to the walls. It's intense, okay? You need this fence to be right, okay? So I'm gonna stick that down. Now watch this. If it doesn't align straight, you see how it's pulling over? Mm-hmm. See how it's pulling over? So I'm gonna have to take and force this over until it is square. Now you see how it relaxes to the middle? When I press it down, I want that to relax to the middle. If it doesn't relax to the middle, you get it in the middle until it is in the middle, okay? And I can tell right now I'm gonna have to pull this back.
Yeah, it was popping forward on me.
Yep,
I couldn't get it to
and so
stay.
that's how I did that. Do you see what I did? Mm-hmm. I just reamed the hole out. Mm. So I do have more experience with that.
Sure.
There. Now we'll let that set. And full disclosure, guys, when you have China glue instead of CA, sometimes it will dry and relax or relax out from the joint, and you have to watch for that. That one didn't have any issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looked good. All right, so that being said, now we have to get this receiver installed. So the 631 is the way to go for what we're doing. You know, if you'd have retracts, then you would have enough channels, because think about it, you got throttle, elevator, rudder, ailerons in no particular order, and then flaps, retracts, so that's 6. If you have an Aviation ESC, you can ride your thrust reverse in a non-pluggable channel, because there are only 6 pluggables on this AR631, same with the 630, same with the 637T. You would have plenty of channels if you did an Aviation ESC. Aviation ESC is not cheap. So I don't expect people to be nickel and diamond and be excited about spending that. So when you did this build, is there a reason there was no shelf liner installed?
I was gonna do the shelf liner.
So we're gonna do shelf liner now. Why shelf liner? Because shelf liner stops the battery from sliding. So if you roll shelf liner out, then you just take this backing off. Now, if you don't like having Velcro on your batteries, this is how you do it, okay? So you're gonna peel this thing back. Ugh. So you just stick this down, and then you get scissors. It's very simple, but remember, if you have a plane that has like a pocket where you're sliding the battery up inside, Velcro can also be pretty dang hard to use. Oh man, that stuff doesn't rip with a darn, which is good. Okay, remember, all this is doing is creating friction. But also look at these batteries. These batteries have an XT60, okay? So what do we know about the XT60, camera crew?
You're gonna need an adapter to go to the or the EC5. So you need another adapter.
So we have an adapter to an adapter, and then out of the adapter, we'll plug into the plane. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. If I was flying this plane as an everyday flyer, I would immediately chop suey. I would cut off that end. That end is a stupid end. The only reason I would use that battery size is if I used a huge battery.
Yeah.
5000 4S
right.
is pretty much the only battery size.
And
like, I'm not gonna do that.
It won't fit in there.
Okay? However, depending on what battery you have, you may need it. And also, I know some of you are thinking, hey, but Brian, those wires are small, man. Hold on, I gotta check the toilet line. Yeah, that's right. Those wires are small and I don't care. If they catch on fire, I take full responsibility and I'll wear a helmet. Okay? That's like about the 7th point that would be in line to fail, in my opinion, technically speaking. Okay, so we have a little bit of Velcro on here. It's backward. That's one of the reasons why I hate Velcro, because you never know what direction. Is the hook gonna be on the battery? Is the loop gonna be on the battery? And so I always defer to this, okay? And I gotta say, one of my least favorite parts of this plane is loading the battery, okay? So it's not a super convenient plane to load the battery in. And we have said this for years. If it's hard to load a battery in a plane, it is possible that you won't fly it because of that. So here on Brian Phillips RC, we like to show the pros and the cons of these planes, not just, you know, blow smoke up everybody's butthole, because that's what most of the influencers do on YouTube. Fastest, bestest, cheapest. Wow, will it take off from grass? I mean, we might talk about those things, but we're not just gonna like artificially say how amazing everything is. Although I do like certain planes, you may have noticed. What is going on with this Velcro? Look at this, it's like in a knot.
Are there even straps in there?
I literally don't know how to get it untangled. I'm trying to get the Velcro out desperately. Look at this, guys. There's Velcro here, there's Velcro here. Like, who designed this Velcro? So, think about it like this, okay? We had one of our favorite planes ever. That's more influencer talk, guys. The Tomahawk Integral has a battery tray.
Yes.
Why is there not a battery tray in this?
Yeah.
The P-51 1.1 has a battery tray. The P-51 1.2 has a battery tray. The P-47 has a battery tray. The P-47 1.4, 1.5, they all have battery trays. Why? Because the fuse is narrow and it's hard to load a battery. So there should really be a battery tray in here.
He's got the two pieces unstuck from each other.
So what's gonna happen is when we go to load this, we've got hook and hook, not loop, okay? So what does that do? That undermines the performance of our available choices. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slide this in, and this gives us impunity between different choices that we might run into whilst flying this plane, okay? So I'm gonna push it down here, and of course now it's like getting stuck on all the Velcro. So I almost always prefer to do the shelf liner trick, because almost all of your batteries are gonna have at least a smooth side, and that's where you're gonna put that. You don't wanna put your, hook onto there. It will slip a little easier, okay? Because you wanna get as much contact area. So this battery is probably gonna end up here, but in this case, because we're just doing setup on the radio, I'm gonna leave this battery here for later use, and I'm gonna grab a 4S, right? Mm-hmm. Because we don't need to have, so we'll just do like a 2200 because that's fine. 2200 4S should be fine to do radio setup with, okay? And that'll make it a little easier to just kind of plug this in a hole. It's just a Gen 2, nothing special pack. Now also, full disclosure, when you go with the 631, okay, so you get the antenna, you're gonna get all the benefits of AS3X and safe. provided you set it up, of course, but you're not gonna get thrust reverse because we're out of channels. And so keep in mind, when you have a Predator ESC, you have to actually plug in the yellow wire on the Predator ESC, which is an individual signal line. And when you actuate that pulse width modulation on that channel, it's gonna change from forward thrust to reverse thrust. Ironically, it's just like with the Avian ESC, which makes me wonder if there's some sort of a software difference, and that's all plus packaging. But I'm gonna tell you this, we have had problems with Predator ESCs when we do pilot fatigue. We cannot get it to consistently work. I have lost a number. I don't want to say I've lost a number of planes, but I have crashed a number of planes because it does not turn on. I've also made a couple of mistakes in combination with circumstances that happen because of that. Okay, so I just want you to know, my honest assessment is that the Avian ESC and the thrust reverse that we get from it is very reliable. Almost never have a problem. I'm not saying I haven't made a mistake whilst using it, but I have not had it fail to actuate, okay, while using it.
Yeah.
All right, so we pulled the staple, unpacking this thing, should be a pretty straightforward install. Okay, why do we always go through the tedious task of talking about the receiver choice? The reason we talk about the receiver choice is because we're big on teaching on Brian Phillips RC, okay? We're not just here to show you what it does, but we do that too, okay? Our objective is to show you what it does and why we picked what we picked so that you can say, hey, that's the way I want to do it. If you want to do it this way, great. If you want to do it that way, even better. I think that's probably the better move, okay? Because the difference in price is still pretty considerable between this and that. I think it's like a $40 or $50 difference. I mean, it's not nothing. So just keep that in mind. We understand that's a factor. For most people, it's a pretty big factor, okay? All right, so what do we have? We have gear, flaps from Y cables. This must be ailerons. They don't think that needs to be labeled, of course. And then rudder, which is coming from here. It's taped. Why is it taped?
I don't know. It was taped.
Okay, so we need to probably untape that. So I'm gonna untape that now. I don't know why it would be taped. And then this is elevator. So we gotta send that underneath the box with forceps.
Send it underneath. Oh, I see what you're saying.
So forceps with a bent tip are the forceps you want. It's ironic because I have the straight tip, I almost never use them, okay? Why am I moving this under here, camera crew? Why are you going over there?
Well, because I can't see that way.
Okay, so why am I putting this under here?
So it can go.
Tell the people at home so they know. Why?
So it doesn't get in the way of the.
So that it doesn't get cut in half by a servo.
Is there a hole there? Oh, there is.
Yeah, it's kind of like the other two planes we did like this. The difference is this one was built by the camera crew. Remember?
Yes.
Okay. So this is probably in the area of gray area between radio setup and build. Okay? So we have the elevator and we have the rudder that pass under there. Now, are you allowed to pass all the way under here? I don't think you're gonna have enough length, but you might have enough length, but then you're not gonna get up and back into the top of the top pin assembly here. Now, if you had an end pin assembly, you could probably reach under that wood plate and flip around. But in this case, we're gonna be able to reach this up and then just do some cable management. We can slide this back down there. But then you don't have to worry about getting into this, okay? This isn't a pet peeve, it's just a reality that we face as, you know, RC builders or whatever. Oh, by the way, let's check this. Look at this, guys. Even gap left and right. Instead of it being kicked to one side, which is probably, I mean, when you really get down to it, it's not gonna be a huge consideration. You know, you probably could have left it and it would have been fine, okay? But I do not want adverse yaw on a really fast plane. That's not fun. That would be hard to deal with because it's gonna change and it's gonna be speed sensitive, okay? All right, so what do we normally do when we're doing radio setup, camera crew? We have to do a profile, okay? So now one could copy the old profile, except it's not gonna work. Here's why. We have additional channels. So if the additional channels are above 6, then hypothetically we could just copy the setup from that, but we're not going to. And here's why. Because we want to teach you guys how to use one of the most expensive tools you have, which is in our case, the NX10. Might be an NX8 for you, might be an NX7E, which is a great entry level, but keep in mind, if you know you're hooked, don't waste your money on it. Just go straight to the 10, spread the cost over your planes, you're gonna come out ahead, I promise, okay? So cancel and back, we're gonna go add new model. It's an acro, we're gonna create an acro. It's gonna take a while if you have a million models in your transmitter, okay? Yep, it takes forever, guys, okay? So model type has already been set. Model name, we're gonna type it in. So this is gonna be the P-51 Red Dago 1.1 meter. So we'll try to fit that and come right back. All right, so the FMS P-51 Red Dago 1.1 meter, okay? Don't forget the size class, you'll probably need it. So the aircraft type, we're gonna have one aileron and one flap. It's got a typical tail, and then we'll select an image. I think we have a P-51 in here. I know we have a P-51, that's good enough. Okay, so now we do need to set up a flight mode. Okay, I'm gonna set it to switch D. We walk out, spoken. This is where we're gonna have our name that displays on the screen. So I want AS3X in the top. Remember, this is just a label. So we're gonna highlight, cancel, cancel, and then scroll it in real quick, and we'll come back. All right, so AS3X, then we're gonna type in, then we're gonna scroll way down here so we can put in the actual audio event. Okay, so AS3X, you can test it if you want. Then this one's gonna be off. Okay, cancel, cancel. Now the reason I do an off setting is because some of you guys like to have settings like this, just so we can demonstrate what it looks like. But I can tell you right now, I'm not gonna run this with that off ever. But you guys might want it, and so as a result, I go ahead and show how to do it. And honestly, I like flexibility. It doesn't mean you have to use that feature, and it's kind of the same thing as safe. Like, I don't use safe, but the thing is, I know a lot of you guys need safe. Well, on a plane like this, if you need safe, you probably should not be flying this plane. It's incredibly fast, it's very powerful, but there again, you can technically fly it with safe. So we're gonna show you how to set it up. Okay, then we're gonna pull up the audio event so we can call that out. Again, keep in mind, folks, this is just a label. We'll set up safe and AS3X a little bit later during forward programming, and it's pretty easy to set up. We'll show you. It's the same on the 631 as it would be on the more robust 8360T. Okay. All right, so one thing we're gonna lose on this setting, or on this setup, is we're gonna lose our pack voltage, okay? So if you used an Avian ESC, you would also get that back through this, even if you're using a dumb pack, which we are gonna be using a dumb pack. Okay, so channel assign, I know I wanna unassign B from auxiliary 2 because we're gonna assign that to the flaps, okay? Everything else should be fine. I think I'm gonna, yeah, we'll make flight mode for aux 2.
Okay.
Okay, no reason not to. Okay. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go into rates. Even though we probably should do throttle cut first, we'll go ahead and set up rates. Rates are super easy. We do 5, 10, 20, and then we drop rates down to 90. So the expo is gonna be 5, 10, and 20. And we'll drop the rate down to 90. This gives us a middle ground. We can jump up if we need more soft sticks, more dampening, less aggressive, okay? Or we can go more sensitive, more touchy. Definitely less expo, which is gonna unsoften the stick, okay? And then up here, we'll drop the rates down to 90 from 100. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing on all three. This is the way we always set up our rates, unless there's some really extenuating circumstance. And we almost never even look in the manual for their settings for this. We might read the manual just to make sure there's not some huge disagreement, like on, you know, the F-14, there's a flight controller that might be doing something weird. And so we want to make sure not to interfere with that, or a VTOL, this sort of thing. You may have some special settings, or like the erratics UMX. Or am I thinking of the right? Yeah, the erratics.
Well, erratics isn't a UMX, but
there's both. There's an 800 millimeter. Isn't there a small one too? I can't remember now that you say that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, whatever. So throttle cut. Sorry guys, I wish I knew. See how that's working? It's reassigned it on accident, so I want to inhibit that. I'm going to go ahead and hit exercise switch H, acknowledge it by clicking. Then I'm going to test by looking down here. It is working because throttle's not moving. When I shut that off, throttle does move, okay? So throttle cut's a very important safety feature. Make sure you've got that on, okay? So now what we want to do is go into flap system. I'm going to set it to switch B. I'm going to set the speed to 2. But just keeping in mind, we don't really want to set that until, okay, the control horns are set, so we should be good to go. I don't remember what direction it goes, so we'll have to set this up here in a minute. And we don't want the elevator to be off of 0 position, because that can cause us problems, because we still have to hook it up, as you can see from that hanging down.
That is the only one that was not hooked up was the elevator.
Can they see it?
Mm-hmm. Everything else came hooked up already. This is in the correct hole position, but it's not hooked up to the ball link.
Okay, so basically then we have a timer, because now we have to sort of depend on the timer. I don't remember what the timer was set on the other plane, but I'm gonna go with something small like 3 minutes. Anything over 25% is gonna start our timer. And then we're gonna have a 1 minute voice warning, 20 seconds nothing, 10 seconds tone and vibrate, and expiration with the tone. Tone and vibrate rather. This is gonna be a voice countdown. Tone and vibrate and a tone every minute thereafter. And then we're gonna be ready to bind, except we gotta hook everything up. So we have throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder, gear, flap. Why is aux 4 moving like that? Well, it's one of my sliders, just kind of in a middle step. Okay, so this tells us how we're gonna hook things up. So if you look at this, now you can see, obviously we have the bind program, SRXL2, then we have channel 1 through 6. S is up at the top, then plus, then minus. You guys see that? Okay, so there's raised letters and they silk screen those with orange. So signal plus minus, so that's gonna be white, red, and black if it's Futaba color code, or it's gonna be orange, red, and brown if it's JR Hextronics. Okay, which is what we have on this one, okay? So we can leave this monitor mode opened up just so we can refer to it. This is gonna help us to plug everything in. So camera crew is gonna go over to my right. And so obviously this battery is just kind of stuffed in here just to kind of help us with radio setup. But you need to be a little bit careful around the edges too, because it's like, you know, really easy to damage these things. Okay, so elevator is gonna go to, looks like channel 3. So brown needs to go toward the camera crew. It's gonna make it really difficult to plug these things in. So I'm gonna start with the hardest one so it makes every other one difficult.
No, that's upside down, isn't it? Yellow.
Oh yeah.
Up.
Yeah, that's right, I'm sorry. Signal is definitely forward, so that brown goes down. I'm just having kind of a hard time seeing. I need to be over there, I'm sorry. I can't reach because the wire's so short.
It's fine.
So there's 3. And what else do we have? We have rudder.
Which will be 4.
Rudder is 4. Okay. And then flaps, which is what?
6.
6. Okay, so that's plugged in on 6. Gear is going to be on 5. Okay, so remember gear meaning like retracts. Okay. And then we have, this one must be aileron since it's not labeled.
Yeah, so 2.
So 2. And then throttle. Throttle is the one that has the extra yellow cable, so we're not gonna be using the yellow cable. Now you could have thrust reverse tied to another channel, but just keep in mind, if you get fancy with it, and I don't necessarily recommend you do, please be careful. Now this time they actually put a full connector on there to force you into the signal connection, okay? But we're not gonna use that on this plane, okay? So that's a little bit unusual for us. Now, obviously this needs to be mounted somewhere because it is a spatially aware receiver. And so in our case, I just need to find a spot where I'm comfortable with this, and preferably a spot where I can get the antenna to go into the tail section, just because that'll make it nice and protected and get it away from all those moving parts, similar to what we did with our wires for the elevator and the rudder. And if you guys can't see, I'm really sorry. I cannot move the camera because I am just moving the antenna. Okay, this is not wanting to slide in worth a crap. I don't know why. Just get in there, please. Okay, there it goes. There it goes. Okay, so now option 1, mount it sideways. Option 2, mount it lengthwise. I kind of like mounting it here. Even though it's off center, it's going to give us a chance to pull the battery out. Okay, so now I have done this a number of different ways. Sometimes we use double-sided tape. Sometimes we use China glue. Sometimes we use like foam. I'm actually kind of curious. We've got the shelf liner, and the shelf liner is made of foam. I'm curious if we were able to get away with this. That'd be pretty sweet, actually, because we do use a lot of China glue to just glue these, and it's usually okay if you go straight down to the board. But I'm curious if this is gonna help a little bit with vibration. So I'm just gonna put a little bit there, okay? And then I'm just gonna stick this down in it. Now, normally you would wanna let this tack up, and you can still do that, but there's gonna be some that poops through. So I'm gonna put a little bit more on top, not a ton, probably just like a little thin strip. Now, this stuff is so clear, it's hard to see, but it's definitely there, and it's running down. Okay, so I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna just squish it in there, and then I'm gonna take and turn the plane so it's vertical. Now, this is probably not gonna stick very well for a minute, and that's okay, because that stuff really kind of needs to tack up for it to work properly. And so we're just gonna like literally not let it stick, and that's fine. Knowing that we'll have to go back in and squish it down here in a few minutes. So I'm just like sticking it up and down a few times. Now, we don't want to do our radio setup with that for forward programming until it's stuck in position, because you don't want to set your level position and have that thing like, because that'll literally move the plane away from it, okay? So if that thing goes up like this, you set level, and then later you stick it down, your plane is gonna fly like that, okay? And when you turn safe on, your plane's gonna go, and then guess what? It's gonna fly that direction, which means uphill and to the left, which is weird. Because safe is not necessarily heading hold. So there's a difference, okay? Safe just holds a position. Whereas a heading hold would be like, stay here, okay? It's a little different setup. So people use it to cheat on their 3D flying. Some people do. I don't, because I suck at it, so I don't worry about it. Okay, so now also let's do a little cable management while we can. Yeah, I'm not thrilled about how much cable's coming up. Again, this is one of those things where like when we're building planes, like I normally kind of take care of a few of these loose ends, but like admittedly on this plane, you know, just having the cables accessible and stuff like that, there's just, it's moving around too much. I gotta wait, okay? Now, we're on a plane stand, so when you're on a plane stand, a couple things to consider. A, you got landing gear. This one's fixed in the down position, so we don't need to worry about it. But the mains on this, they just kind of pull out from the belly and go out to the sides. So we don't need to worry about hitting them, but you do want to check on that. Secondly, we're pretty much ready to bind. So we're going to go ahead and bind, but we're not going to do forward programming, okay? Because we got to wait until this can be stuck down. Okay, so that China glue has to set up for 5-10 minutes. Not even that long. Okay, so we're going to go down to bind. We're going to be prepared, but we're not going to press that button yet. Okay, now I'm going to power this up. I need to be careful I don't get cut. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in, power the thing up, press the bind button. Sorry, safety first. And yes, I have to scroll down to bind again. A little bit of telemetry there. Okay, so the flaps came down. Now, I need to make sure this stops beeping. Throttle hold is on, throttle cut is on, I should say. Okay, so we're definitely not in bind mode anymore. Did you hear it beeping? Throttle hold is off. Throttle up. throttle down. Why is it beeping?
I don't know.
That's weird. That's 4S, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna clear the timer. I'm gonna be prepared because this thing is very powerful. Okay, and it does have thrust reverse too, so unplugged, de-energized. Now, while we're de-energized, we're safe. I'm gonna try to stick this down and see if the glue is holding. See, it's starting to tack up. So I should be able to kind of stick that into position. Yeah, and we'll have to play with that a little bit over the next few minutes and just give that a second. If that doesn't end up working, I'll make sure to point that out so you guys know not to copy that. I tried that shelf liner thinking I'd get a little bit of, you know, vibration isolation. All right, so this is already bound. Throttle hold is on, throttle cut is on, I should say. Throttle stick is down. Throttle hold is for helicopters. I catch myself saying that stupidly all the time. I don't know why I do that. Because then if I'm working on a helicopter, I say throttle cut all the time.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily the same thing as throttle hold. Throttle hold has to do with not only throttle position, but pitch position. So it's different. And it also manages what flight mode you may be in as well. Okay, so it X-nays throttle after, you know, like the spool up, okay? So it's different than throttle cut. Throttle cut is more simplistic. It just stops throttle from, you know, spitting power out the motor, okay? So here we go. We're gonna start this back up. Be prepared to control the plane just in case. Don't understand that. Throttle cut is off. Throttle's up, throttle's down. Okay, now pay attention. Trim, 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 trim. I'm trimming down. Trim, 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 trim. I'm at minus 34. There's minus 40.
Is it possible that that battery is not charged? That's just a random 2200 that you grabbed.
You know what? That's a really good, okay, so throttle cut's back on. Disconnecting the battery. That is a very good point that the camera crew brings up. If your battery's not charged, it may not let you initiate. But this one, I guess I assumed it was charged, but I could be totally mistaken. So we're gonna turn on the charger. We're gonna plug this in and see what happens. My guess it has been charged. Okay, so you have a 2700 4S ready to go.
Yes.
So we're just gonna use that. Okay, so 2700 4S was one of the sizes we used. Let's see if this takes care of it. My apologies if that was the issue. I don't mean to waste you guys' time. So that's why we make short videos. It's like 3 hours long. I was talking about the short ones.
Right.
Not the long ones. The long ones are longer than that usually. Okay, holding the plane. Throttle cuts off. Throttle up, throttle down.
It's not beeping.
Okay, watch this. Throttle cut is on. Unplug your power. We've seen this before. Throttle cut's off, throttle stick all the way full. Plug it in. We're gonna calibrate the ESC. Throttle sticks all the way up. Wait for the weird sound tone. Don't worry about her. Come on. All the way down. Okay, 4. Throttle cuts on. Throttle stick does not activate throttle. Throttle cuts off, it should work. And it does, and you can see the flowers and the paper towels. There's definitely a lot of power there.
Yeah.
Throttle cuts on, and I also noticed no braking, which is good because I don't like braking on this plane. I need that prop to tractor on final so I can help slow the plane down because it is a speed demon. All right, so the good news is whenever I do a throttle calibration, I always de-energize, throttle cut, throttle stick down, and then test. We have had planes on a couple of rare occasions where they'll go to like 5%. Listening? It's armed with the throttle cut on. We want that. Throttle cut is now off. I'm gonna see if it jumps. That was a vibration, good timing. Oh yeah, throttle cut works. Okay, so we can trust it. Very nice. We had a plane the other day we did. You guys probably haven't seen it yet. And this plane, it wandered. So like after we had throttle cut working, it came back on and then it would like slowly drift up. Not cool. Okay, so we can trust this one now. Throttle cuts on. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get the elevator in position. We're gonna get the flaps set, okay? So because the flaps are so egregiously down, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into that first. So flap system, I'm just gonna go to the land, like regular flight mode. And I'm just moving it to, it's probably gonna be minus 100, okay? So minus 100 didn't quite get the job done. That's okay. So then take off flaps. We're gonna do like, probably like minus 40, something like that. And then landing flaps. Okay, I wanna see what we got going on here. We haven't hit yet, we haven't hit yet. Now we're hitting. Okay, so it looks like we got to about 90. Okay, so then the takeoff flaps, and that's actually too much. I'm gonna do minus 50. So then basically what we're gonna do is we'll have just a proportional amount, and then we're gonna have landing flaps like huge brakes, okay? Now I need to go up to servo setup, travel, and I wanna go into flaps in the regular flight mode, and I wanna close this gap. So come over here so you can see. We're just gonna assume they're even for now. Usually you have to go to about 125. Yep. Okay, so you can see that mostly close the gap, So there's takeoff flaps. Now landing flaps are just like barn doors, okay? So takeoff flaps, I actually, the takeoff flaps are about right, okay? So now, admittedly, that might be too much deflection. We'll figure it out. But what I can do now is I can go into flap system and I can set my elevator correction, but not yet because we have to actually mount the elevator control ball link, okay? So now also let's talk about this receiver since we glued it down. As you can see, it's still got a little bit of tack to it. You know what? I'm taking back my whole plan. Forget you, you're going bye-bye. That's not necessary. It was just an idea. Sometimes ideas work, sometimes ideas don't. Okay, shelf liner. I was thinking about reusing that.
I know you were.
Just kidding. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in here. Just full disclosure, this thing really, that doesn't really fit this way. So I'm not sure, like.
I think you had it vertical in the Miss America, possibly.
Okay. Okay, so supposedly this was vertical, okay. And I'm just trying to see if maybe the cables are in the way because that might be part of the problem. Yeah, that's like, doesn't seem to be fitting. Yeah, I'm not sure what the heck happened, like how we got that in there because that does not feel like it's gonna fit. Now that's okay, I can live with that now. And you see with all these stinking adapters on here, it's already a pretty tight fit, folks. So like I said, if you know you're gonna be flying on an EC3 or an IC3, then just put an IC3 on there and be done with it, or put an EC3 on there, which will be compatible with both. And then this has the big body, it's not carved out. I wish that was hogged out by the factory, but it's not. And then all that Velcro's in the way, but we gotta get this thing closed just so I don't have wires flopping out. While we're doing radio setup, okay? So I'm gonna just flip this upside down. I'm gonna lay it down. I just wanna point out the difference in color here. I'm pretty sure this is probably not supposed to be like that, but maybe it is. That's very unusual to me.
I don't know.
It might just be the way it's painted, I guess. Okay, so right here, we need to look at the ball link. The ball link needs to be neutral, okay? And then as we move the elevator, of course, it's gonna move in and out. But before we do anything, we're gonna turn this, wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we have 6 half turns. That is hardly any. Did we not have this problem the last time? I feel like we did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Did you guys have to put clevises on anything?
We did not.
That makes me nervous. Okay, so if that made me nervous there, guess what? It's probably gonna make me nervous here. Look, we changed the spline position on that elevator. So we're gonna have to change the spline position. Ow.
On the elevator.
Okay, so that means we have to take the elevator off. Can you give them a square shot of that, please, so they can see what I'm talking about? Show them what I'm talking about.
So you're gonna take this off the arm and move it one spline position to the back to give yourself more
Yes.
purchase on the threads.
Yes. That's what I'm gonna do, because otherwise that thing's gonna rip off. So sorry, I'm not having that happen again. I've already done it once. This is going to go on. Can you give them a close-up shot of that, please? That's a more opened end. Now watch this. Oh no, it's just the way that the shadow's hitting. There isn't necessarily a right or wrong way. I was mistaken. Okay, so I'm gonna undo the screw. Then once I have this screw out, I'm gonna take my fingernail and ride the head of the screw, lay it down here. I'm gonna pull this off like that. And I'm actually gonna go over here and just kind of see where we are. I'm not actually snapping it, I'm just holding it kind of loose. You see that? Now, this is an inferior setup. That linkage should be square so that you have even deployment up and down, okay? But it's not. So that's life in the big city. If they send you the wrong length linkage, then this is what we're gonna set it up like that. And this is what we do on Brian Phillips RC. We show them when they send with mistakes and stuff like that. I don't know if I wanna sit here and pretend like this is some gigantic, egregious mistake, but at the end of the day, this is not right. This should not have to be done, okay? We complained about it on the Miss America. We probably didn't catch it on the Voodoo, but maybe we didn't have the problem on the Voodoo. I don't recall having it on the Voodoo.
It's been a couple of years since we did that.
Yeah, and we've done a few planes since then.
Yeah, one
like
or two.
Probably 90 or 100, maybe more. Okay, so ball link pliers. So we're gonna use this to snap this on here. Guys, if you want to help support Brian Phillips RC, all you have to do is buy from the links in the video description below. It's the easiest way you can support us. You don't have to pay us anything, but we do make some money from commission from our partners, and one of the partners is FMS. So if you buy from this link that we have in our video description below, you'll help support us financially, and you don't have to pay it, they pay it, which is kind of nice, but we do bring you the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. And that's why we tell you about linkages that are screwed up and crashed J11s because the linkage is ripped off. Wait, that wasn't a J11, that was an SU-27. And that was a manufacturing defect. They did replace that plane, by the way, but it was like way later and on a completely unrelated note, so whatever.
The J11 you crashed all on your own.
Yeah. Okay, gear. I cycled the gear. Okay, so pay attention for a second, camera crew. Rock hard and no springs. Poo poo. But the gear in the wrong position, so I'm gonna go up to servo setup, travel, reverse gear. Okay, so now the gear down, the gear up. All right, throttle cut's on. I always check the throttle cut before I get myself into proximity to get cut. I have been cut one time by an RC plane, and it was when I was doing some funky things. Funky things. And it was with an Aero Commander UMX, so fortunately it was a really small cut. And I had 2 receivers in there because I was adding flaps, and it was an awesome build. Okay, so y'all left, y'all right. That is incorrect, so I'm gonna go to rudder. I'm gonna reverse that. Rudder left, rudder right, elevator up, elevator down, roll it. Oh, good Lord. Ailerons, roll left, roll right, elevator up, elevator down. Y'all left, y'all right. Take off flaps, landing flaps. Okay, guys, all the surfaces are moving in the right direction. So now that we have everything moving in the right direction, we're gonna go ahead and, oh, by the way, show them the match on color here. Very poor. That is bad match.
It does not show up as bad on camera, but yeah.
You guys see what I'm talking about? Look at that. It's hard to tell in this video. But yeah, this orange is not the same as that red or whatever it is. I mean, it's not like, you know, projectile vomit. It's not quite as bad as this. But I'm just like, why does that not match? I mean, they match this perfectly.
Yeah.
I mean, the blue is, well, it's really close.
Yeah, it's really close.
And that's something that FMS usually does a really good job on. So I'm super surprised to see that. Now, like I said, you're probably not going to notice it. It's probably not going to be a big deal when it's going by like at 165 miles an hour or whatever it is. Okay.
You were going to set up the elevator correction with flaps. That's why we hooked up the thing. I don't know what you're doing next, but I just want you to forget that.
Do you want to stay here? Okay, so flap system. So the elevator correction, we're gonna exaggerate the movement, so make sure we get it the right direction. Yep, so that goes down. So I'm gonna set that to something like, let's call it 6. And then let's call it 20. You know why? Because we have a pretty excessive amount of elevator correction there, okay? Excuse me, an excessive amount of flap in comparison to the takeoff flap. So I did 6 and then 20, okay? Now, why do I want to do 6 and 20? Because that's just a guess and we'll adjust it after we fly. And you're probably thinking to yourself, but Brian, you've literally done this plane 3 times. Why don't you just copy what you did? Because this is the way we learn how to do it. We want to teach you how to learn how to do it. It's not just doing it. I mean, anybody can tell you the exact setting and you can scroll it in, but you haven't learned how to do it if we don't teach you how to do it. And you may not need teaching how to do it. You might just be watching, you know, because you enjoy watching our videos. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. The reason I'm in here was making sure this is stuck down, and it is now. It's not wandering around, it's not giving us problems. So now at this point, I can tuck this down where I was originally going to tuck it down, which means I don't have to worry about the absolute position of the transmitter, but I don't like that because that could potentially get into the elevator, excuse me, the rudder. And so I'm just gonna, I have to get a little creative here. I remember we had problems with this too on the other one. Every time you go to load your battery, you gotta sit here and do all sorts of cable management with your stupid battery lead. Why? Why?
Adapters.
Yep. And that's why it's annoying when they use those IC5s. Like, I'm not worried about the current handling. Now, secondary issue, again, we bring up gripes. That's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. It's not because we're trying to be obnoxious, but the truth is, when you go spend the money on these planes, this is not an especially difficult to buy plane. It's not like a terribly expensive plane. But the thing is, like, you want to know you're getting your money's worth. Well, that doesn't mean it's without compromise. Okay, look how long that strap is. Good Lord. Okay, so it's, yeah, it's gonna just be what it is.
Why does it even have 2 straps? You can't reach.
You can't even reach the second one. It's so annoying. Well, and the reason that there's 2 is because you need 2, evidently. And that's one thing too that's kind of like, you know, FMS is kind of bad about this because they don't really sell batteries. They don't know what battery. And I think at one point they must have sold batteries because they are expecting you to use like a 35C pack. And I'm like, 35C is a weird size. Yes, there are 40C, which is unusual. Yes, there are 50C all over the place. There's a lot of 30Cs, there's some 20Cs, but it's kind of getting to be a thing of the past. So when they call out products that maybe don't like have a good fit, we try to share what we would use, okay? All right, so 2700, 4S is what's in here, but we're probably gonna fly this on 6S because it's just a powerhouse insanity situation. All right, so we gotta do forward programming before we do CG. All right, so forward programming, click, scroll down, forward programming here, connecting, gyro settings, first time setup. Make sure all your crap is right. Continue. Now we're gonna set it on its nose and continue. Throttle cut is on. And by the way, throttle cut is forced to be on before you go in here, or low throttle position at least. On its nose, click continue. Look, found a position. That looks correct. Let's open the canopy and double check. I'm gonna lay this back down. Okay. By the way, I am gonna spin this once we open it so it's easier for both of us. Does that look the same as the display? Yes, it does. Okay, so orientation 5. The other day we did a plane, orientation 24.
That's a new one.
There's a lot of orientations. It's ever changing. Okay, all right, so keep it level, keep it true, keep it plumb, however you want to look at that. So we're going to continue, gain channel assign. So we know we want to go to aux 3 right now because that's the default, and so we'll use that as our default. Next, we're going to apply it. Listen, dance. 1, secure the plane just in case it takes off or tries to take off. Only 1. We want 2 with safe, okay? So it's rebooted, so we're gonna jump back in forward programming. Gyro settings, now F mode set up. Flight mode has already been assigned to D.
Safe mode.
So we have to set it to D. Or flight mode, there we go. That's what we need. So the other thing too is, let's talk about this for a second. Is D assigned to flight mode? Yes, it is. It's assigned in channel assigned to D is flight mode, okay? So either way you would be able to do it. So you see how it changes now and it didn't change before? So in this mode, I want AS3X active. In this mode, I want it off. In this mode, I also want it active because that's where we're gonna assign safe, okay? Now we can go to first time safe setup. Flight mode, verify it's correct. You see how it loads and populates the screen. Continue. I want it in this one, as opposed to this one, as opposed to this one. Okay, so we're in 3, next. Next. Okay, I feel like this is the way I would want this plane to fly if I had safe on. I don't want it to be on its gear because that would be up like this because it's a tail dragger. So I'm gonna level, model, and capture attitude. Whoops. Okay, so evidently there's nothing, it's exactly flat. So that's always nice. Okay, so are you having problems?
Yeah, with focus, I got it.
Okay. Okay, so I want to change this. This is our limits for pitch and bank angles. And so I want to set it to 60, 60, and 60, and 60. And I'm going to turn safe to self-level and angle demand. Then it's going to be off. And it's going to be off. So we don't really care about these because that's not going to be on. Okay? Very good. So we can hit next now and we can apply. Now listen, 2 dances. Yeah, that's why you got to secure your plane because sometimes weird crap happens during the reboot. You guys see what happened there? Dance 2. Throttle was only moving because of the chirps. Okay? So now this receiver is rebooted and it also opened and closed the gears. So just be aware that that crap can happen during a reboot. I'm gonna go back into forward program, gyro settings, AS3X. I'm gonna change this to 4 times so we can verify. We can stay in this menu, throttle cuts on. So now if we have already given 25% or greater throttle, AS3X will be active. But if we're in the menu, nothing. Nothing. Safe will work, but only safe. Auto leveling, okay? Attempting to find the quickest route to level. Elevator, attempting to bring the plane true. Attempting to bring the plane true. Look at the ailerons. Quickest route is still down. Quickest route is now up. Got it? So safe is working as expected. Now I'm turning it away from me so I can verify the direction of travel. Elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right, yaw left, yaw right. You also notice there's not as much movement. When I turn it off, there's more movement, okay? Quick checks. But throttle cut's on. I'm gonna secure the plane. Throttle cut is now off. Throttle has been over 25%. Throttle cut's back on. Fixed adjustable. We changed this gain sensitivity to 4. Now it's working, even though we didn't actually ever make a dangerous condition. Throttle cut off, move the stick. After securing the model, throttle cut back on. And now our AS3X and safe is working. Okay? You guys see what I'm talking about? Gain all the way up. Rudder goes that way, rudder goes that way, elevator goes that way, elevator goes that way, aileron goes that way, aileron goes that way. Okay, so also off, on, off, on, gain down all the way, gain half, gain all the way. I'm moving at the same frequency, halfway, 25% off. You guys hear the amplitude change? Quick check. Now, all the way up, 4X mode, camera crew. Check this out. Look at the rudder. Move, move. See, it's resisting the movement. Now elevator, a little harder to see, up, down. See, it resists. Then aileron, up, aileron down, aileron up, aileron down, okay? Make sure double, triple, quadruple check that everything is working. Don't shut off your throttle cut right now or you're gonna get cut, okay? So now, off has been tested and verified. So now I'm gonna go to the mid-gain position, 50%, and now I'm gonna change my 4X down to 1X. Why 1X? Because you generally don't need gear going down. I did that on purpose. So now I'm gonna click on 4X, highlight it, and then go down to 1X. So now it's gonna change the amplitude. It's gonna be a little harder to check, but we're done. Okay, guys? So the only thing we gotta check, throttle cuts on, and I cleared my timer. The only thing we gotta check now is center of gravity, which needs to be marked. And that should be a pretty easy thing to do with a marker, so that's what we're gonna do now. So, center of gravity as configured with 2700 4S, that's what we're measuring for right now, but we actually need to be able to switch between batteries, right?
If we go up to 6S, yeah.
If we go to 6S. So, what is the measurement?
70 to 80 back from
where?
the leading edge, like this actual
Where?
bump here.
Yep. So this, not this, because this is kind of like main span and then right here. It's almost always right there. Okay, so 70 to 80.
Yes.
So we just put in our calipers, we just get 70. Okay, a little bit less. Oh wow, pretty close. You can lock it down. Get in here, square it up, mark it. Get in here, square it up, mark it, okay? Then 80.
Yes.
All right, so there's 80. Close enough. Square it up, make the bump, square it up, make the bump, okay? So now you can also take and spot check that you have a 10 millimeter gap. If in doubt, close enough, close enough. Now, I'm not a big fan of close enough, but when it comes to marking center of gravity, there's only so much you're gonna do because they don't really give you a great reference point on most of these planes. And that is unfortunate because there are a lot of perfect measurement points, case in point, the gear mounts. Because the manufacturer knows exactly where they are. I kind of wish the manufacturers would start calling out points that we can actually see and measure from, instead of calling out points that are ambiguous, like a sweep in the armpit of the front of this wing here, right there. Like where exactly do you measure? Do you measure from the seam? Or do you measure from here? Where does that? The problem is that's like a 7 millimeter sweep. So if you have a 10 millimeter range and you have a 7 millimeter sweep, how is one to determine exactly where that is supposed to be accomplished? Dumb luck and experience. That's how. All right, and you can watch Brian Phillips RC and you can see when things don't go well, you'll understand exactly what caused it, because we'll help to try to reverse engineer the crash or the mistake or the adjustment, or maybe we need a battery a little bit further forward or whatever it happens to be. Now, I don't think this battery is probably in the home position where I want it, but let's go ahead and see how it centers out. Gear down, remember, if you don't have gear down, you're not landing. You need to be able to land, okay? That's tail heavy and nose heavy. So we're right in the middle. Probably favoring toward tail heavy, okay? So that's gonna give us a sensitive elevator because it's balancing on the back mark and then it's tail heavy on the front mark. What I like to see, if I can make it happen, is I like to see when I put my finger, my middle finger on the back hole, I like to see it a little bit nose heavy and I like to see this a little bit tail heavy, okay? And then that means that somewhere between those two 10 millimeters apart points, or whatever it happens to be. It might be 20 on some planes, might be 16 on others, might be 12 on others. I want to see that we have the range there. Now, on this particular plane, I already know I'm gonna be pushing a smaller battery further up. It's gonna tend to be more touchy if it's tail heavy. So just plan for those circumstances by either giving yourself more expo or lowering the rates, or in extreme circumstances, you can take the control horns and you can actually change where they go. So like on, well, that's a bad one. Let's go to the elevator. Say the elevator is gonna be the pitch axis, gonna be the most critical. So then what you would do is you'd bring it in one whole set. That's the same as adding a lower rate and or a little bit more expo in terms of the feel of the aircraft and the performance. But keep in mind, if you're on the outermost hole, you have the most movement on the servo. And if you're on the outermost hole of the linkage or clevis or the control that goes into the elevator, you're gonna have to show them. You're in the outermost hole, there's an innermost hole. There's only two positions on this. The outermost hole is gonna have less movement than the innermost hole because that's gonna have a little bit more mechanical action, okay? So, not every plane is set up exactly the same. Some planes need a lot of throw to pivot the plane, but a well-designed plane really doesn't need a lot of throw on the elevator to change and actuate the position of the plane. I also noticed that that elevator looks like it's going down just a hair. Does it look like that to you? It does to me.
Just a hair.
Which is frustrating because I swear we had that level. Because like that's level,
Did we
right?
reverse the direction of travel?
I think we might have.
Sometimes that throws it off a little bit.
It's not a little. Look, watch this, guys. Look at that position. Doesn't seem like much, right? I'm just gonna show you. Tell me when it's level.
I can't.
Is it level?
No, you're past level now. Right about there, probably.
Just to let you know, that's 52 clicks of trim. Okay? So I'm gonna center it. It pains me to have to do this, guys. But sometimes, I'm gonna tell you, this is the trick of the day, and I don't like sharing this trick of the day, but the trick of the day is, better to find it now than to find it after you crash, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna quickly grab the plane stand. It's gonna take us a couple of seconds to fix this, but I'd rather fix it now than fix it after I get it out of a tree. Okay, how do we fix this problem, camera crew? We're gonna pop this off, okay? So you have to use this like weird tool. And this tool I think is a little bit, it's thick. Like it's a little hard to use. You can get these that have a little bit thinner head on them, okay? So what do we need to do? We need to line up here and we need to see what's going on. So it needs to go up a little bit. So I'm gonna turn this out just a hair, 1/2, 1 full turn. Now look at that. Now that's pretty dang level. Now I'm just gonna show you, I'll go back 1/2 a turn. I'm gonna go back another 1/2 turn and look where it pulls it. It pulls it down. So there's 1/2 and 1/2. And that looks like it's going up a little bit now. Which is funny because I swear we were pointed down before.
Yeah.
But we're not in auto leveling. If we were in auto leveling, that would be trying to level the plane. So you might see a positional change on the elevator. All right, so that at least gets us where we need to be. We've got all the surfaces moving in the right direction. We have correction in the right direction for AS3X and safe. We have our flaps functioning in the right direction. We have every function on this plane, which by the way, I gotta say, even though I think that this has a little bit more of a sloppy look to it on paint, and my preference against the decals are not real great. I don't like the decals as much. I love the red. I think the red is gonna look really good in the sky. But look at the differentiation between top and bottom. There is virtually nil for differentiation, okay? You're gonna have a little black dot in the center.
You have yellow on the bottom.
You do?
Yep. That you don't have on the top.
Look at the difference between this. Kind of the same thing. But you know what? The Voodoo is very different top and bottom, and it's super high vis, okay? Also, I gotta say, Chrome spinner. Guys, so much better than this one.
Yeah.
The blue flat mat, I mean, it's beautiful because it matches, but I'm gonna vote for this every single time if I have. Again, they're going for a livery, so it's like they're copying a full-scale plane. So of course they're gonna do what the full-scale plane does. So this might be the way the full-scale plane is colored, but I just kind of find that hard to believe. I tend to think that they would have taped off somewhere. And maybe that was just a manufacturing decision because they didn't have to jig every single wing to paint those two colors. Or they ran short on materials or something weird. But I do find that kind of strange. Because like I don't feel like they cut corners on anything else. Mm-mm. So, and then this mismatch, I mean, it's forgivable. It's frustrating, but it's forgivable. I'm more concerned about the lines than I am about the exact color match, but I do notice it. All right, so at the end of the day, Brian Phillips RC is here to serve you. The Unbox build radio setups get a little tedious for us after we've done the same plane multiple times, but we do know that there are gonna be times when you have to weigh your decisions between a reflex plus an AR620, no reflex plus a 631, no reflex plus the 8360T, and now we have delivered all three potential solutions. Now, whenever we get the other color scheme, I'm not sure exactly what we'll do.
That's the only one, the Blue Thunder is the only one
That's
that
out
they're
of stock.
selling currently right now with the reflex. The
Oh,
other
right.
three
Yeah.
don't have them as of right now.
And I have a stinky suspicion it's because it's maybe a lesser popular color scheme.
Maybe so.
So, but all I've got to say is beautiful planes, very fast. My only complaint on this is that I am a sucker for a regular bubble top World War II. I'm not a crazy fan of the Razorback and the racing scheme. I wish that we could get a canopy on these that would be a bubble top. That'd be super cool. But I said the same thing about the E-Flite Ultra Micro P-51. Now we've got the Warbird livery and I love it. Okay. So in a 1.1 meter, it's a mean flying machine and it is fast. Also, complaints about this, as you've noticed, a couple of the complaints are procedural on this, not a big deal, easy to work through. Cable management was not a big deal, but there's a little bit of effort there. Getting underneath those plastic pieces so you can avoid getting into the rudder. I think I might have said elevator, but I meant rudder, because at the time I thought it was the elevator, but it was a rudder. Linkage, you don't want to cut your cables. Also in terms of center of gravity, a little bit hard to measure, but not a big deal. It's pretty common on these planes anymore to see that complaint. I don't like installing fences. I wish they were installed at the factory, admittedly. I kind of like that to be done by the factory where they can jig it in and get it just so. But if you're picky about that stuff like I am, then you could see that as a pro or a con. I don't want to tell you what to see, but that's what I see, okay? Also, the gear door on this particular model, not a big fan of the way they look. I think they look wonky and thick. I'd rather just not have them there, okay? Again, not a big deal. You could cut that off with an X-Acto knife and color it and it'd be done. So really modest concerns with a really nice plane. Biggest concern on this plane, battery loading, battery unloading, okay? And because of how it loads, there are limitations on size. And then that brings me back to the second concern that actually matters, and it's just battery connector. But again, not a big deal. You can change that if you really care. We just knew we were gonna have a few of these, so we didn't want to get too married to one particular battery plug. Okay, so hopefully we answered all your questions. It's getting late, we gotta eat dinner. And this is gonna be beautiful. So FMS, good job again. I would say, you know, I'm not doing ratings because it's all arbitrary anyway. So if you're gonna go with arbitrary, you might as well just listen to my arbitrary opinion, which is that this is a well-built machine. It's gonna give you all sorts of fun. I think you're gonna enjoy it. So now the tough part is, which one do you really want? Do you want the Voodoo? Which, by the way, we do have a Voodoo, but that's in our container right now, right?
Yes, that's not real.
So we have 3 of them right now. If we ever do the 4th, we'll do the 4th. You'll be able to see what it looks like, you know, hands to the sticks, see if you like it. NX10 has been good. We're finally starting to get a little bit of that jumpiness on the scroll wheel. Admittedly, when I set up the audio vents,
AS3X mode. Off. Safe mode. AS3
We scroll a lot to do that. If I set up my own audio events library, then I could scroll like 3 times. It would literally take the amount of scrolling per build from like 3,000 scrolls to like 1,000 scrolls. Well, I mean, there's still quite a bit of scrolling.
Yeah.
Just type it in names and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Which, by the way, full disclosure, I use a legacy keyboard because I like it. There's a newer keyboard in all of the firmware. Okay? Have we missed anything that I'm forgetting? If you guys have questions, leave them in the comments below. If you want to support us, there's 4 different ways financially. If you want to support us one time, there's Super Thanks and PayPal, and then monthly support through Patreon. Thanks for being a Patreon supporter if you are one. And then YouTube members, which is also monthly. So thanks to our YouTube members. We appreciate you guys being members. It really does help. Now, we don't put a lot of exclusive content out, but every once in a blue moon, we might throw something out a little early. And that's about it, because we don't want to have a VAT tax collected from everybody that supports us on Patreon. And we just feel like that's the most idiotic thing to do, because if you add benefits, then you have to pay VAT if you're overseas. So value added tax. So that's why we choose to do that. And plus, to be honest, we put out so much content all the time. It's like, I don't know exactly what else we would put out because we don't have enough time to do what we're doing now. And it's really a stretch. So maybe someday when the day job goes bye-bye and I'm just doing this full time with the camera crew, we can handle that. But right now, I'm just not seeing that anytime soon. Speaking of soon, I don't know when they're going to see this. Are they going to see this before we go or after we
No,
get back?
probably. Oh, maybe.
It depends on how things go, okay, guys? If you haven't ever been to Joe Nall, whether we're just getting back from Joe Nall when you're seeing this wonderful footage, or you're about to go to Joe Nall. We're going to be at Joe Nall 2024. We went in 2023. It was super fun. This year, we're going to be there from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then into Saturday. Our flight leaves on Saturday night, so we'll be leaving at some point toward the end of the day. Saturday is kind of a wrap-up day anyway. But it's really nice because there's like not much going on, and you guys could hang out with us. And if you have a plane you want us to fly, we've already got a couple of guys lined up that want us to fly stuff, and I'm super excited for that. So we're going to try to get some content for you. But also, if you want me to fly your plane or just meet us in person, me and the camera crew will be there, and it's going to be super fun. We're really excited. I mean, we had a great time last year. So, I mean, to be honest with you, the bar was set so high. I'm nervous that we're not going to like it as much because we had such a good day. And by the way, one of the days it was raining for like most of the day.
Yeah.
And we still had a really good time.
That's great.
Because, I mean, it's one of these things where like you go to the ice cream stand and you get about 14 steps and it's taking you an hour to get that far because you run into like 4 different people want to talk. And so if you think my videos are long-winded, you should meet me in person. Yeah, it's just like that. So plan some extra time. And by the way, we love being at Joe Nall. It's a beautiful 400-acre aerodrome. We're trying to build our own little aerodrome here, but ours is like 24 acres. And we are so blessed to be on that 24 acres. And we are so blessed to have our pond under construction again right now. We've got our hugely overpriced, over-engineered main drain going in probably tomorrow. And then the overflows hopefully in the next day or two. But the dam is there. We have a dam. There is water in our pond, but it's about that deep and it's just in like tracks.
Yeah.
But it's getting really close and it's super exciting. So guys, when we have the pond done, then that means the dam road is right around the corner. The helipad, the extension to the runway, and then the dam hangar, which is going to be right next to where the dam is. And the dam gift shop is going to be right next to the dam. And the dam gift shop is going to probably be like a full-scale hangar. Or maybe we'll put agricultural implements in it. I'm not sure. It just depends on who's asking. It's going to be awesome. We can't wait to get you guys in it. And the other thing, too, is we'll have a full-scale airstrip. So all these things take longer and cost way more than we thought they would. Just like everything. But we love doing the RC stuff. We love the full-scale stuff as a future goal and hopes and dreams. And we hope you guys will be part of it with us here on Brian Phillips RC. So if you have questions, leave them down below. We'll do our best to get to you. And definitely smash the like button. Long format, we're already at huge disadvantage against shorts. We do some shorts once in a while just to keep them from firing us on YouTube, okay? So if you want to stick your middle finger salute to YouTube, then smash the like button. and you'll help them to understand you don't care what they think because you want Brian Phillips RC. Also, if you want to support us, the best way you can do it, no matter what we do for all these other Patreon, PayPal begging sites. I didn't want to do it for years, but people were literally beating down the door and they've been asking for years. And then people stepped up and did it when we turned it on. The best way to support us is watch the videos, smash the like button, and then buy stuff when you like it. If you don't like it, don't buy it. Buy something you do like. Brian Phillips RC is there right now. Thousands of videos right now. You can find that one, you can find this one, any of the ones in the background, any of the ones in the basement, any ones over there, helicopters, quads, VTOLs, leaf blowers. It's all there, sorted by type, brand, model, and it's ready for you right now so that you can find the one that you thought you were looking at and got sucked into the video, but now you can go back and find the one you actually wanted to see. I think we've covered our bases. Guys, Unbox Build Radio Setup, that's why you come to Brian Phillips RC, so you can get the most out of your RC experience. We're gonna get you from the chair into the air and keep you there. Man, that's so rhymey. So guys, thanks for watching. So much more right around the corner. Come back for more.